Good afternoon. I am Sivarama Prasad, visiting faculty at IARE for TIC and Innovation Center. Today we will see about design for environment, mainly an introductory class, so that it gives some overview on this. If you see, originally in the olden days, people were more with nature and natural products, and there were very limited use of the products, that too in a very scattered way, and they are mostly of natural biodegradable items, and the disposal also was very easy, and overall there was no big strain on the nature. Then came industrialization. It has brought a lot of good things. It has brought a very convenient products and mass production. With this, what happened is there were some lifestyle changes also. When things were happening, it was all enjoying, but some of the effects we are seeing it now, especially the materials and the disposals and all. If you see a picture, normally materials, men and energy, these are the three main elements which are being consumed in making a product. In the early days, men are more of doing craft type, and they are only doing a lot of work, and the energy it is all manual energy only, not any power or other energies. And materials, anyway, most of the natural items they were using. But when it came to industrial age, all the three became very important, and all the three were used in abundant. So there was very high material consumption, and because of the life, and they want to make new products. Every day a lot of new products are coming, so old products are becoming obsolete, and there are some encouragement for using it new and throwing away old. With this, what happened is some sort of a carelessness developed, and resources were being used and thrown away. There was overconsumption, more than the requirement. We started using it, and anything you started throwing it out of there. That means you are not taking care in the beginning itself, and the culture also changed. Use it, throw it, waste it, rather than earlier days of try to use it small and repair it to the maximum extent, then reuse it or recycle it, like this. And natural capital means raw material resources, and a lot of man-made capital means products which are already made. So you started making products and storing it. A lot of inventories, a lot of things. But the natural resources slowly started using it more and more. And there are some inorganic materials also started developing in this. So what happened is, over a period, the accumulation of rejection items, wastage items, unwanted items, it has become very big, and slowly they are becoming unmanageable. So with this convenience and availability, the increase was there in the usage of items, and a lot of electronic items, automobile items, appliances, plastics, lot of things have come into the way. And along with this, some of the things were toxic waste, heavy metals. These are also started coming into the regular usage. Usage in the sense, while making the products, they are also being used. So, in the process, energy is there, materials are there, usage is there, market is there. So everybody started making very heavily and started creating a very big economy, and in the way people were living very happily. But when it comes to the question of returning it, there were difficulties. Whatever you are throwing,
It has become an environmental issue. If you see global warming, resource depletion, solid waste, everywhere waste is there, water is getting polluted, and air pollution has increased, and land filling and land degradation started. With all these, we started feeling uncomfort and unhealthy life of a human. These things, what happened is, earlier there was recycling. Nowadays, a lot of non-recyclable items, especially paints, refrigerants, fuels, and some of the fertilizers. These are all non-recyclable. That means once they use it, they have to be in the ground. And most of the things will go into the land only. So you will be spoiling any one of these natural items. If you see in nature, we are getting everything from nature only. That means the five elements of nature: earth, water, air, fire. And with these, you are taking it and you are giving it back. While giving it back, you should not pollute it. But in the recent times, the pollution also is increased. With this, what happened is, the resources which are all available for all the mankind, people started taking it, overusing. That means greed and wants are increasing. So the problem is depletion has started. Once it is there, it becomes scarce. It will hit us in the long run. So if you say a green environment, that means you should not destroy the resources. And economy means it should not be that everybody should get into a loss. Even whoever starts industry, if he is in loss, it is of no use. Same way society, people have to be educated, people have to be retained, and their life also has to increase. To meet this sustainability, that means it is not that today you will use everything and tomorrow, no, there will not be any resources for the future. You have to retain it, you have to keep it, you have to preserve it, and at the same time you should not pollute it. So what happens is, in a way, you have to move from consuming to conserving. And in a conserving society means society, environment and economy. All the three will sustain. Otherwise, one will go off, for a few days it will run, then slowly everything will die. Finally, you get into bad days. So, to keep in balance, you should keep it in balance. That means society, environment and economy. They should be in balanced state. Then only the society will run in a conservation way. So with all this, what happened is, people started the effect at the end. That means when it is a disposal end. Why at all we should produce it? Why not to take care at the production stage itself? And why not to take it more importantly at the design stage itself? So this thought has come. With this thought, the pressure on engineering, pressure on design, pressure on product development has increased, that you should start designing for environment at the design stage itself. And that is the first step to protect the environment. Everybody has to protect it, and it is all our responsibility. So let us first start with design for environment. And design for environment automatically makes new product developed with a good environment friendly. While doing this, there are some normal terms which are being regularly used. That is hazard, risk, normal, abnormal, emergency, routine, non-routine. Like this, these situations, some industrial explanations were given. That means hazard means it should not do any harm to a human. That is injury or ill health or combination of it. If anything happens to a human, that is called as a hazard. And a risk is, suppose any hazardous event is happening or it is occurring, then it affects again in the human injury or ill health, all these things. At the same time, it will also spoil the assets which are the surrounding area. So that means if such things is happening, it is called as a risk. If it is a normal one, that means there is nothing. Coolly, every service is being done as per the plan and as per the land situation and as per the condition which is designed. So there are no any issues. Abnormal means you will suddenly see something which is not normal. That means a deviation from the regular process. Emergency means it is totally an undesirable situation. That means it is not foreseen, not expected. Suddenly something happened. That means that is an. So like this, few terms are given. And when the terms are there, you have to assess the risk. You have to see whether it is acceptable or not. Site, reuse, recycle, like this, these terms. Generally, if you see the industry, there are different ways of handling the pollution. People will see first the pollution. Product is seen, you will enjoy it. But pollution is seen while in process, while in disposal, all this thing. In the very beginning days, pollution was ignored. So they just produce it, smoke comes, effluents, they release it, nobody is bothered. Then there was some action. So they started diluting it and leaving it to the environment. Then at the end of the pipe, you will recycle it and you will neutralize it, then give it back to the nature. And nowadays, the best is proactive. That means whatever polluted activities happening, you repair it, you neutralize it, then release it. That means anything is coming from the closed factory, it is again good. So there is no output of polluted items, hazardous items, risk items, nothing. That means you are not giving anything to the society. Everything you are managing it within yourself and rectifying it and giving it back. And if you see general cycle, first cycle is what we said. That means within the factory you do everything in-house and then do it. That is first cycle. You make the material, you get the material, you make the product, distribute it, use it, again take back, repair it or destroy it, and then whatever items you want to use it, whatever item you want to destroy it, and whatever item you want to dispose it, segregate it, which are the items to be disposed, dispose it, which are the items to be repaired, repair it, which are the items to be reused, reuse it, or which can be recycled, recycle it. Disposal also, give it to the environment where it is again recycled, and whatever is left over, it will go back to the regular 5 elements, that is air or water or land. From there again earth generates the resources. This is how the nature cycle or industry cycle works in. And if any of these things is imbalanced, what happens is the ecosystem also goes into a problem. That is why we are seeing warming, global warming, and that is why we are seeing some unhealthy scenes in the human life, all these things. So you have to control all these three. The first step is at the industry, and out of all, the first foremost is design. So if you see the general sustainability, first people will think of pollution control, energy control, then product control. So energy is one area where it comes majorly in the power plants and mining, where the major energy is being used. And pollution also comes majorly in that. Later, when it comes to industry, where the products are being moved, they are all considered as design for product, design for process, design for disassembly, and design for disposal, all these things. So we'll just go through that. If you see the major energy, any energy is coming from nature, that is mines, coal, water, nuclear, wind or solar, like that. From there, it is converted into electricity. Electricity is given to the substations. From substations, it will come to the industry. From industry, it will go to the machine. From the machine, for the regular operation. In this process, what happens is, whatever energy you are giving input, some portion of it is getting converted into useful energy. That means that much energy is used for converting it into the final usable product. And the rest of the thing is getting dissipated to surroundings, and it is getting wasted. It is getting into the atmosphere unused. So first thing is you have to control the energy. That means the output and input, the difference should be very minimum, so that efficiency is very high, wastage is very less. Whatever you are wanting, that much only you will use it, so that you will not deplete the energy resource. And when you consider the products, at the time of design, you have to see what are the things you can reuse, what are the things you have to conserve, how to sustain the scarce materials, how to protect the environment, how to protect the human health, how to extend the product life, and energy and material consumption should be very minimum, and wastage generation should also be very minimum. And any output wastage which you have developed, that should be again taken back for recycling. And any product which you are dismantling, you should try to retake it and reuse it some other, because once a product failed, it doesn't mean that the entire life is failed. Entire product is gone to zero. Only a few items which are the weakest, they will go first, and the balance items still they have life. Some they can be extended to lifelong, some they can be used for a short period and then take out. That's why reusing the product after dismantling has got a major role. That's why you will see many of the cases, the products which are being thrown out, they take it, remove it one by one and reuse it, and they use it as a used material or second hand, like that. If you see in the machines, equipment and all, you will find these very major equipments after use, after the life, when it is being sent back, they refurbish it. That means whichever item is not good, they remove it. Whichever item is updated, whichever item is to be repaired, they fit it. Then the equipment comes back to original work. Same way, some of the products also being done. One such thing is like rebuilding. Some of the items, if you remove and repair it or put it back, they work like a original one. So these are all the things, they extend the life of the product. That means so that you will not use the energy or raw material which is scarce. At the same time, while in operation, while in process, some unwanted things also will generate in the process, so that it may be good or it may not be good. Once it is not, or it is an unwanted one, what happens is it gets into pollution. Sometimes it may be releasing toxic, sometimes hazardous elements. There are some substances which are being banned or restricted use, or to be used under very highly precaution, like lead, mercury, cadmium, hexavalent chrome, like this. These elements, they are required, but you have to use it very carefully, and you should not throw it into the atmosphere just like that. So whenever you are using such things, you have to be very careful. So try to avoid using that in a regular item. If you start restricting that, automatically the pollution comes down, and some of the things, even if it is discarded into the landfilling, they will not do any harm to that. For combining all these things, there are some standards, integrated management system, which takes care of quality, environment, health, all this. You have to go through all these things and take the precautions as per the guidelines, and you have to go through some of the norms which are to be followed. Sometimes it is regional, sometimes it is national, international, all those things. Because when you are giving birth to a product, it may be good in the beginning, but it should not behave bad at the time of closing or ending or in the process. So the responsibility lies on the man who created it. So you have to be knowing completely thoroughly. You have to go through whether it is till the end. When it comes back to the original original nature, still it is doing good. It may not be functioning, but it should not do harm. So with it, if you start designing, that means this is the background with which when you are starting a design, you should think. That means the product should be functional, aesthetical, life, and it should be useful, it should look good, it should work good, and it should be easy to ship it should be easy to dispose, and at the same time it should be easy for manufacturing, it should be easy for maintenance. So all these good qualities, it has to follow. And you can see the circle where it has given a lot of things, and environment is one portion of it. If you are doing everything good, but it is going to do bad for environment, it is as good as no product. And if it is very good for environment, but we are not able to satisfy any of the other things, manufacturing, maintenance, or packing, reliability, then it is also not useful to the man. So when you are designing a product, along with the production or manufacturing, you should think of the society, environment, and economy. These three things, this circle, it will help you once you get into the items which you have to do it. When you are doing, if you attack all these points, you may not be doing everything best, but at least a reasonable level where it is manageable to the period, or it is manageable to the conditions available at that point of time. So if you see, design for environment, basically it attacks 5 elements. Energy efficiency is a very broad one, and next is materials and the production, transport, distribution, and while in use, and next one is end of life. That means design for assembly and design for recycling. All these things have to be considered when you are making the product. If you see the raw materials, there are some guidelines. That means you have to select the raw material which are easily available, which are standard. If you want to create some unique properties, if you want to use non-standard, and if it is not very easily available, then the product manufacturing becomes very difficult, and you will not be able to give it to the people as you wanted. So try to design the functions with the easily available material, and select the materials which are very low energy content. That means for making the raw material, you should use low energy, that means very less power, and don't try to use dangerous materials. And especially ROHS means the hard metals. What happens is they get into the ground and they spoil the land, which in the long run, it creates some of the lands to be barren or some of the lands to be discarded. They are not meant for human life, like that. Same thing with consumables and chemicals. When you are using any consumable or chemical, while in operation it generates some gases. And if it gas is there, the people who are working there, they get into a problem. When nobody is able to work there, it is as good as process is zero. At the same way, after making or at the time of disposal, they should be easily recyclable and easily reusable. So you have to take all these conditions, guidelines while making a product. So when you're designing all these things, finally you should be using the lowest input and try to give the highest output. This only you can avoid the wastage. This is the only way you should aim at zero defect, zero scrap, zero waste, all these things. Everything, if you are doing, it will be very good. See, the benchmark is the excellence. So whatever best you can do it, whatever is viable, whatever is technically feasible, you have to try to go to the maximum. In the same way, production also. When you are using chemicals, consumables, because in the production what happens is, along with the product raw material, you have to use some of the support elements for making it. Those things also should not develop any hazards. They should not give harmful vapors. They should not be effluents which are to be, when you are leaving it back to the ground or water or air, what happens is these effluents, they have to be treated, they have to be neutralized, then only they have to be left to the atmosphere. Otherwise, the local surroundings get spoiled and it discourages the industry growth there. Once people are not supporting, no industry can grow in that area. And if you are doing harm to the people, they will again discourage the industry. That's why all these things, when you are doing it, the process, it should be the highly efficient one. And you should always look for alternate things, safest things, which doesn't give any effect onto the human life there. And when you are using it in the equipment, in the machine and all, you should try to see they are not loose wires, loose current, and some spillage, some leakages, and breakdowns. These are all the conditions which will not be efficient, and you will not be effectively using the resources. So in the process you are wasting. So these are all the wastes if you are not properly maintaining the equipment. So you have to use the correct material, you have to use correct process, and you have to use equipment also in good condition so that you are not wasting. That means all these things reduce the pollution and wastage. And once the product is made, you have to distribute it, or you have to collect the raw materials, collect the materials from different places. When you are using transport, if you are going from a very long distance, then again you are creating pollution of the vehicle. And when vehicle is traveling, it is again polluting. So you have to carry it bulk and to try to optimize the mode, optimize the quantity, optimize the sizes you are buying, everything. Because anything you buy more, it is not useful. Anything every day you buy, it is more harmful. So you have to find a balanced one. That means people say a balanced quantity and whatever is required, no excess, no shortage, like that. And while distributing it, you will be using a lot of packing material. Once you have to carry distance, you have to see the safety. You should see it is not spoiled during transport. So you have to use a lot of packing material. Packing material again is a waste. Once you remove it, you will throw it off. So try to use recycled material and try to use virgin material very less, so that the processed material is getting back and back. And in the process, don't use some materials where the waste, when you are processing, it becomes very difficult to recycle it also, like PVC or aluminum. They are very high energy consuming one. And when you are using
the product should not use more power. Our product should not be dissipating a lot of power. Our product should not be using more than the required one. So, if a bulb is there or if a machine is there, whenever it is going to be used, use it, and the rest of the time, by default, switch off that. That means by design. If someone is not switching off also, let it get into the default modes of power down, power off, sleeping mode. You can see a lot of things. Nowadays, people are taking care of a lot of these type of things. If a computer is not working for 1 minute or 30 seconds or 2 minutes, then it automatically gets into a switch off mode. Such things you have to give it for the major equipments also. And consumables, water, effluent and all, when you are neutralizing it, start using it back again to the industrial purpose. So that the water, mostly industries, they use water and gas. If they are getting effluent treatment and all properly, you are reducing the pollution, giving it outside. And especially the instructions should be very clear. When you have to do what, and if you see an abnormality, what you have to do, where to call, and how it has to be handled, even before the expert comes and attacks. Otherwise, the risk or the spoil or the damage will be much severe than the real precaution. And preventive maintenance, calibration of equipment is very, very important. Refilling of fire extinguishers and equipment's calibration. Otherwise, it will be showing wrong displays and people may take it wrongly and wrongly process it. It finally ends up with a damage or an accident or a hazard. And these things to avoid, you have to act in time. That's why this preventive maintenance calibration is upkeep of the equipment is very important. And of late you have seen a lot of disposable and throwaway and items which are just like that, throwing it into the atmosphere. It has gone increased. So try to get into reusable one and permanent filters, and instead of throwaway, try to use regular recurring type and completely rethink on the usage of the refills. You can see earlier days, if a car is driving, you are driving, you have to carry a can of water. After every 100 kilometers, you have to pour water, get water, like this. Now, refills have come, which once you fill it, it will work for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, like that. And at the same time, you should not create the refill, a chemical, which when you want to dispose it off, it should spoil the atmosphere. So, to solve one, you should not get into another big problem. So, try to look end to end. Otherwise, you are solving problem here and it becomes a major problem in the other area. Like batteries, coolants, filters. These are the regular things which are being used in the industry. And any item which is emitting gases, smokes, try to avoid it. And at the end, you have to increase the product reliability, product life. And if you are dismantling also, try to take products, at least a part of it, like in modular design. If you make it a modular, then one segment may be wrong. You can throw it off and fit it again with a new one. And it helps in refurbishing or rebuilding. Rebuilding is one of the activity which is being done in few areas in olden days. That is, you take any product, there are 3 things. One is repair it, another is refurbish it, and another is rebuild it. What you do is, suppose an item is working, it got into a problem, you give it back to the manufacturer or a service agent. First you will try to service it by repairing it
just by refitting one item. And if the servicing or items are becoming more and more, they get accumulated. So what happens? There is one method. After accumulation, you dismantle it every part to the final parts list. That means to the final bolt and nut. And then clean everything. You will see almost like a original equipment, except one or two where there is some repair, just replace it. That means 100 items if you take it, and in every assembly, if there are about 10 parts, 110,000 parts are there. Out of 1,000, you may see only 50 or 60 only will be bad condition. And if you again refit it with a good part, that 50 or 100 refit it by changing it, you will get again 100 good parts. This is one rebuilding activity being done earlier days. It is also one of the methods which is being done further. And refurbishing everything. The equipment is very big and only very few items will go, and that few items if you refit it, again the equipment gets back to the original condition. So refurbish and rebuild, they are major things in many of the products, especially to upgrade. And at the end of the life, if the product is remanufacturing, rebuilding, all those things you can do it. After dismantling, you can know it. But if there is a painting, there is a plating, then they become very difficult. Because plating or painting, you cannot get back. And if you throw it, they will degrade and they spoil the landfill. That's why try to avoid plating and painting in the beginning of design itself. Instead of that, select the materials in a different way. And finally, people will do what they do is either they throw it in the ground or when they throw it in the floor of land, it gets into the land. Some gets degraded, some may not get degraded. So land becomes polluted. Sometimes what is there? They fire it, burn it. When you burn it, it becomes ash, correct? But the gases which are coming out, they become toxic and they spoil the local people. They get into health issues. So, when you are designing, you should see that if you burn it, you don't release toxic gases. These are all the things which you have to consider while designing. So, with these guidelines, there are some scoring. It is not that you can make always perfect and make it good. You are always trying to go to the perfect. But for that, you should cross some minimum. If you are not crossing that, you should not select that. That's why it is a guideline which helps selection of impact material, reduction of material, optimization, all the things. You can map it. You can see where your product is, whether it is to the best side or to the worst side. If it is on the worst side, think of alternative. If it is on the best side, okay, we can live with that. These are some of the scoring methods. Why this has to be seen in the beginning is, design is the first activity. And this study is to be done by an expert, because design is considered as one of the best high subject-oriented specialist job. So, it is not just one man's job. It has to be done with a group of experts and try to make it. So, designing you can do it, but the review, do it with a group of experts, so that when everybody puts it, your product life, design for environmental goes up. Similarly, you can mark it, the lowermost as red and the outermost as the best. So these things, because subjective, these are all subjective. When you are designing it, you can either put it in the lowermost or topmost. But then expert with a responsibility and moral things, he will try to give a best possible solution so that it doesn't do any harm to the society or environment. Ultimately, what we want is a circular economy. That means every area you should be able to do it. It should not get into an open loop where once an open loop is there, over a period, it gets accumulated and it creates an imbalance. Whether it is mining or design or manufacture or distribution, everywhere think. Earlier days, we used to think just 3R, that is reduce, reuse, recycle. But now, with every process being so efficient, a lot of technology, a lot of developments in the products, materials, there are many R's from regenerate, regulate, redesign, reform, like that. There are so many things which you have to consider at every stage. Design being the first one, he only has got the overall view. So, the first and the foremost duty is on designer. All others, they can only support, they can only visualize, or they can only think. And when they are thinking, they may not be able to think 100%. They may think less, they may think overthinking and all. But designer being easily generating, he will have a good knowledge of it. And so he has to take a lot of efforts in doing this. And that doesn't mean that it is a designer's job and a specialist, so we need not do anything. We do have to make our own contribution for that. And why all this is, if you are not able to understand this, tomorrow when you enter the field and when you take up the job, you will not be able to give proper importance for it. So, a new person, when you are entering into the field, it is our duty to tell you the criticality of the activities so that you will give importance for that. And it is not just see only locally. You have to see end to end. Then only you will appreciate the effect of it or impact of it. And also, unless you know these, you will not be able to give a good service. And also, if you are not taking care of these, you also may be part of doing harm. Instead of doing good, you also may be doing harm. That is the reason why first you should have all these things. So this small presentation is just an initiative to give you an overview how important it is an environment, and it is not someone else's job. It is we have to do it. It is not that we will do everything. At least whatever is possible, we will do it that. So with that idea, you please take care and work to build a conservative society than just a consumer or throwaway society. Please give your best attention so that you will sustain for the next future. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.